Thanks for stopping by for another video. If this video is of any help and you want to support the channel, please take a quick moment to subscribe and drop a comment and a like. In this video, we're tying up a bead head Pine Squirrel Leech. In the vise, we have a Moonlit Tagata ML201 hook, and we have a 2.5mm tungsten bead. Go ahead and get your thread started right behind the bead and jam the bead forward, and then trim off your tying thread. And you're going to work your thread all the way back to the curve of the hook. At this point, you'll grab a Pine Squirrel Zonker strip, and you measure it out so that you have a full length of the hook from the back of the curve to the eye of the hook, and then part the material. You can see the part right here. And then go ahead and lay that back right where you stopped your tying thread. Do a pinch wrap to get that in place. And then lock that in nice and tight. I use 3 wraps here to get that in nice and tight. And advance your thread back up to about 1 bead length behind the bead. Part your fur, or just part your zonker strip. Tie that in nice and tight once again. And then we're going to go ahead, get our scissors and snip in nice and clean and tight. Here we'll just clean up our tag end just a little bit, which isn't really necessary. We've got a random straggler piece floating off the front of the hook. We'll grab that in just a second, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and create a dubbing loop. Wrap your thread around, open it up twice, get that in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prepare about 3/4 of an inch of Pine Squirrel Zonker, trim it off from the hide, and we're going to slide that into our dubbing loop. And once you get that in there, slide that in, get it cleaned up. You'll see me adjusting the pieces of the little fibers there. I like to trim it close. In this video, you can see me trimming right here. Now that that's trimmed up, go ahead and start spinning up your loop so that those fibers get trapped in there nice and tight and make a good collar for this fly. So now that we have that tight in there, we're going to go ahead and just wrap our thread towards where our tie-in point was, and we'll brush the fibers back so we trap as little as possible. And then just wrap that in nice tight wraps up towards the eye of the hook. If it doesn't lay where you want it to the first wrap, unwind and redo it. Now that I have that seated right behind the bead, I'm going to do a final wrap and get that to lock in right behind the bead. And I can pull my thread snug and it'll go in right behind the bead and virtually disappear. Now I'll do a couple of catching twists and wrap behind my bead with my tying thread to lock this even more in place. Now that that's locked in place, I'll get my scissors and trim off the tag end of my loop. And then we'll go ahead and whip finish the fly at this point. So I'll grab the whip finish tool and throw in a couple whips. Pull the thread tight and remove your thread. Grab some UV resin. Put a dot right behind the bead on the thread wraps to help seal those in place. And then give it a nice hit with the UV light to get that to cure nice and tight. And then you have a completed fly. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you haven't.